For my next question, like since you've done many shows and you've gone through it and a lot of preps, what do you think is like a big misconception when it comes to competing that people like aren't aware of that might want to be getting into it right now?
Um, I mean, one thing I get a lot is people have this misconception that you're suffering and you're constantly going to suffer like on prep. And
Mm,
the whole process just to people that I think especially aren't that familiar with dieting, or dieting hasn't been a big aspect of their life. They view it as a form of suffering, whereas actually, it's quite enjoyable. And don't get me wrong, there obviously are moments in prep where you might feel a bit low. You will have to suffer, but what people don't realize is 9 times out of 10, if you see someone competing and you see someone like shredded or in that level of condition, they're doing it because they want to do it, and they're not like
mm.
thinking in their head, this is horrible, whatever. So I think the biggest misconception is people can be, I think, very afraid to embrace some level of pain and suffering, whereas they don't kind of appreciate the level of growth that can come with that, and that's where essentially, confidence is essentially built from doing hard things, right? And yeah, I think that's the biggest misconception because sometimes I'll even now when I'm like deep in prep, in gym environments, people ask me like, "Oh, I don't know how you're doing this," and they view it as like something that's crazy, but it really isn't as deep as they perceive it from the
Mm.
visual aspect, if that makes sense. It's kind of like just a person almost like just doing a job, if that makes sense.
I see, because I maybe am one of those people that you're speaking about that will look at someone in prep and think they're like having the worst time of their life. But you're right. If it was really that bad as like other people perceive it as, you guys wouldn't do it. You know, like if it was like all this suffering that you hated, it's like there's no way you would go on doing that for your life, you know? So I think that is very true. That's something I never really thought about myself either.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. But that's probably the biggest misconception because it really isn't as deep as people make it, especially if you're doing it in the right way and you have like a good structure in place. It's actually it can always be a very exciting process, to watch your physique change and see yourself, especially the last, like, I would say 6 to 8 weeks is where you really see the most changes in terms of like the condition when it comes out and stuff, and it can be very exciting and fulfilling.
Yeah, 100%. It's like all the training you're doing every single day, you're kind of seeing the results like happen like simultaneously.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
For sure. So how has pursuing competitive bodybuilding shape you into the person you are today? What do you think is like the biggest noticeable difference you see about yourself or the way you think?
I think one aspect that's definitely kind of reflected in other aspects of my life is paying attention to details. You know,
Mm,
uh, I guess in other people's view, it can be seen as something like OCD, but I genuinely believe just paying attention to details can make you more successful in life, and just paying attention to all those just little things. Because in when you're like on prep, for example, you might pay more attention to just your food intake or just certain things you're doing, like in the gym, and it's very precise. And I think having that kind of skill and being able to like manage the stress side of it has allowed me to kind of just do more and just manage a higher workload throughout my life.
I see. And it's like you're saying, it's like sometimes people will be very like not specific in what they're doing, or they might not, be so focused on the details, like even with their work or even with like relationships and stuff. So I get what you mean. It's like there's so much detail within competing that like if you're able to transfer those like little details that you focus on to other areas of your life where maybe something's not going the way you want it to, but then you start to realize maybe I haven't been focusing on the details of this thing, then you could kind of implement that as well into whatever it is that you're going on in your life.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And obviously there is obviously the discipline aspect, just training your mind to do something which you may not particularly want to do, or certain days where just being able to show up on the days where you don't feel like it,
Yeah.
which always is a great like trait which can resonate in every other aspect.